I thought the last 2 weeks of the Zman be appropriate to learn the last piece in Kiddushin. If we're going to leave Maseches Kiddushin, you can't leave without this Birkas Shmueil. This is a place in the Birkas Shmueil where he talks about really hashkafa, and it's a lot of what the Rebbe taught us is based on this article. You'll see clearly this is what the Rebbe did, and the topic is, how does the mitzvah of learning Torah fit into our lives? What does it mean? What is the mitzvah? And he's not talking al pi musar, al pi hashkafa like in the musar sense. He's talking al pi din. What is the Torah obligation, the mitzvah? We know that it's one of the Taryag mitzvahs to learn Torah, Talmud Torah keneged kulam. What is the mitzvah of learning Torah? So the Ma'orer, to have this discussion, is it's a halachic tshuva to a rabbi in Germany who wrote a letter to Kamenetz, and this is the Birkas Shmuel's answer to him. So the question is, I'll read the beginning. The Birkas Shmuel says, a tshuva to a certain Rav in Germany about the din of mitzvahs Talmud Torah. There's different views among the Haredi Jews. Yeshnam sherotzim lashuv lechos b'derech HaKodesh limud b'neihem Toraseinu HaKadosh kederech avoseihem lifneihem asher ikar Toraseinu HaKadosh haisa b'dinosam. The Torah had like centers of learning, and they kept a certain system of learning from their fathers. That's called Derech HaKodesh. But I think all the more so in our generation, you see that there's also Haredim that are so mech on the horah of their rabbi HaGoyen HaTzadik, Rav Shimshon Ruchwil Hirsch. And Shimshon Ruchwil Hirsch, as we know, is held the view that a religious Jew, shomer all the Torah and mitzvahs with tremendous care, has to make himself learned in Torah and knowledgeable in the world and function in the modern world, not live in a shtetl somewhere with no connection to the world. And he promoted that, and he believed that that's the derech of the Torah, and some people went like that, some people went like that. So the two sides are very relevant, and gives us an opportunity to think what is the din Torah in a question like this. After all, you have a question, what is the type of learning I should do? So a person would like to not just fly by the seat of their pants, like figure out more or less what I feel comfortable to do, zev v'zeh divrei Elokim chayim, as they say, but a halachic answer. What does the Torah obligate me to do? So this is the Birkas Shmuel's answer. Hine v'matusem mikavod charedei amenu asher omdu b'tzeruf b'nisayon shas milchama shel Yetzer Hara. I have to say that those Jews where nobody can envy them, the pressures and the place where they stood, that they were in the fire and the trials, the war of the Yetzer Hara, Milchemes Amalek, to destroy Torah that came from the Haskalah. The Haskalah was centered in Germany. So the religious Jews in Germany, they were on the front line battle against the Haskalah. And what did they do?
Wait a second. Rev Hirsch's position.
Jim Shofar Hirsch wrote that a person should learn Torah and should work, have Torah and Malacha. A person should be educated and cultured.
Was that a decree, or was that more of a
necessity?
A necessity
to fight against the movement?
Well, Birkas Shmuel's answer, I'm going to read it inside, and the Rebbe said this many times, is that his position was called a horat shah. Now, if you tell somebody about your psak halacha that's a horat shah, you'll defeat the purpose. Because then they'll feel that, oh, I'm a b'diavad Jew, I'm just doing this because the rabbi couldn't tell me the right thing to do, so he told me to do this. But looking at it from our point of view, we have to ask ourselves: was this an understanding on equal footing with a debate in the Rishonim and Achronim of what is the din of Talmud Torah, or no? And the Birkas Shmuel says clearly no. There's really not the two sides of this question are not based on machlekes of Rishonim and Achronim, what is the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Therefore, he clarifies for us that if anybody would like to follow that derech of Torah Malacha, it's you'd have to justify it by saying that the same horat shah applies now as then, but it's a horat shah, and that's his answer. No, it's not the din Torah. It's a temporary measure to deal with a crisis. And that's how we have to understand it. Now, in case anybody will tell me that today we're in the same crisis and worse, it's not that we don't live in a time of crisis today, in terms of learning Torah, but it's not the same crisis. The fighters against Torah today are little pipsqueaks and little nothings compared to the Baalei Haskalah. The fighters against Torah in the Haskalah were intellectual giants. They were people that were very tough to fight against them. And their hatred was also much more than today. Today, people don't hate religious Jews like that. They don't have the understanding of what a religious Jew is. Just don't like payas. They don't like beards. Some ridiculous side things like that. But they're not fighting. They're not even the Tzionim are not on the level to fight Torah like the Haskalah.
And was that the same as Aristotle's time or higher?
Not the same at all, because there are people who compare the Greek culture not in the time of Aristotle, but in the time of the Greek conquest of Eretz Yisrael, and their beliefs in Avodah Zorah, which they forcibly imposed on Am Yisrael. But it wasn't, the Haskalah was 10 times worse, because it wasn't done by military force, and the goal wasn't Avodah Zorah. The goal was purely L'Shem Shemayim,
the effect was
like Amalek, to destroy Torah.
So it's Amalek.
The effect was.
It was basically Amalek. That's where we're going to get to the Jews right now.
No, the effect of the Haskalah was much worse than when anything had ever happened to Jews.
That's true.
That's
100% true. So what I want to say, though, when you talk about a horat shah in the next few lines, is that don't think that you could apply a horat shah today also if you thought that the emergency situation was the same. But you need a hagufa, you need Gedolei Torah to tell you that fact.
I mean, I have an argument against this, because people that are studying Torah and all of a sudden go out and meet a guy that knows a lot of other things, it's tempting to know this knowledge about the world, that if you just study Torah all the time, you might not know this general knowledge that's out there.
That's true. You won't.
So it might be tempting to you to start.
But the temptation is not the temptation of the Haskalah. and they didn't just satisfy themselves fighting the Torah by offering a very attractive, tempting, alternative style of what to do with your time. They fought head on. It was a war, and their goal was to
Destroy Torah.
take people out of Torah.
Like the
And
Rebbe
destroy
tells the
Torah.
story of the $25,000 salary he would get if he stopped studying Torah.
That's mild, but I'm just telling you, there's no Gedolei Torah from the time of the Birkas Shmueil till today who would ever tell you that we're in the same milchama with the same horat shah. So when I say that this is the Birkas Shmuel's basic answer in a nutshell, he says in the first lines, but there's a whole article to read, is that Rav Shimshon for Hirsch HaGoy and HaTzadik, because he was right in his time. He was right for his time. He did the right thing.
But that information of the people that fought against Torah is still out there. I mean, it can still be used against you.
But they did not succeed to destroy Torah back then, and certainly not now. They don't have the koach now they had then. Torah is still around. I don't say that there's no person learning in a yeshiva who ever left yeshiva in modern times. Not true. But the forces that move a person to Chalila leave learning are not what they were then. Not as much a milchah. So he writes like this. He says, "Hine avoseihem shamu lekol rabbam atzadik v'amdu raglam ala Torah kadosha." They listened to their rabbi, Rav Shimshon Perush, the tzaddik, kadosh, and they followed him, and they said no to the haskalah. They planted their feet on the world of Torah. Vinini mevorcha, and I give them my blessing. Ki yazrom Hashem yisborach, and you see the result. Hashem helped them. V'yizku liros v'shuv Hashem yisborach shvus amo. B'meir b'einem omein. They contributed to bringing back Hashem's presence to Am Yisrael. Ula, ha'emes al pi ha'Torah mechuyev kol rav lahagid ki chas v'sholom lomar shehi al pi Torah hakadosha sheyitnu Yisrael b'neihem legymnaziu. Barak HaGoyen HaTzadik Rav Shimshon Hirsch Zal Osa Zos Mipnei Shehu Ro'ol Kol Kach Es Ra'al HaPitui Shel HaSkola Boer Hais B'vadai Kavanas HaTzadik Shiashuvu B'tshuva Shleima B'emshech HaZman Kishita'amu Tamo Shel Torah V'yavidu Atzmam L'shanos Es Eisek The Horat Shah was that the first step is to save them from the Haskalah. The next step is that their learning Torah should help them to come back to the proper way of learning, and they'll realize what Torah is all about. But without that, they would be lost in a sea of destruction. And therefore they followed him. And he was right to do that. But his position was not that I'm telling you what learning Torah is, to have Torah and Malacha, to have Torah and plus. The way the Rebbe always put it to us, Zatzal, he always said, Ach v'rak Torah, and not Torah plus. So basically those are the two sides. The Derech HaKodesh is called Ach v'rak Torah. Nothing else, Ach v'rak Torah. And the derech of Rav Hirsch was called Torah plus. Torah plus. What's wrong with Torah plus? You get Torah, and plus you get all the plus. Sounds even better. Why is Akbar Torah better than Torah plus? The Torah plus means Torah plus some work, Torah plus some understanding of the world, Torah plus being a modern Jew that fits into the world and does and makes a good living. Torah plus all the wonderful brachas plus Torah. And it's not only they said those things, a little parnasa plus Torah, a little work plus Torah. No, Torah's the main thing. Torah plus a little work here and there, Torah plus a little bit of extra knowledge of all the knowledge out in the world, Torah plus. Not that Torah is secondary, chas v'shalom, but not akbarach. So, now what is the Birkas Shmuel's raya that there's really not two shitas here? One is a horat shah, and one is what he calls the Derech HaKodesh of Torah. So he says, in order to love the Torah, there's only one way. Kamaimar David HaMelech Alav Shalom. David wrote in the Tehillim, Sheker Saneisi. I hate it. I hate Sheker. I hate Sheker. V'toiva. And it's disgusting. But Torascha ohavti. Biur. The meaning of this pasuk in Tehillim is, Ef shar lagia la'avas haTorah, ki ima yedei sinas haSheker. Vat yesh liYisrael lagia lehoves haTorah and Torah Kedosh ba'ayin b'shar shlishi in Sefer Yashar. So his chiddush of why I know, even if people might try to argue otherwise, that there's tons of rayas for to understand Rav Shimshon for Hirsch that it's not a horat shah. The Torah says, "Imein kemach ein Torah." The Torah says all these things everybody quotes to you.
You will do
some Torah in order to tell you that that's the derech of Torah. So how is he really able to say no? That Rav Shimshon bar Hirsch's derech is a horat shah, and the Derech HaKodesh of how we always learn Torah in all the generations and the places where even the German Jews knew that Germany was not the center of Torah in the European world. It wasn't the center of Torah. There was great yeshivas in Eastern Europe. Those were the centers of Torah. Everybody went to those yeshivas to learn Torah. But the Jews in Germany who were standing up for Torah and fighting Torah, and they would have had a lost battle if they didn't have such a strong leader. They were on the front line of the war. But you wouldn't say that Germany was the center of Torah. No, wasn't.
Yeah, you couldn't have sold that. You couldn't have sold that answer in Vilnius. Oh yeah, do some Torah and work.
There was no need for it.
That's what I'm saying.
And plus it was.
There's no
but now that we're not in that crisis of the German Jews, and you look back, so that this is really also the Birkas Shmuel is not writing to that generation and telling them that your Rebbe's Torah is a horat shah. He's writing to a couple of generations later. There's a rabbi in Germany who wrote him a letter to Kamenetz, and he wrote back. And he said, that derech, that there's many Haredi Jews in Germany, the grandchildren, great-grandchildren of those Jews who fought the frontline war of the Haskalah, whose understanding of Torah is today, it's the time of the Birkas Shmuel, to teach their children a broader picture of general knowledge and Torah knowledge, and develop them in that way to be cultured and learned and occupied in society and productive and part of the world, and B'nai Torah 100% without compromising
Their grandchildren.
one inch of a mitzvah. Who are they?
The children and their grandchildren still kept Torah after all
Of
those
course
years.
they did.
Just because, so
They had a
can't
lot
be
of
put-
koach. Yeah, they had a lot of koach.
so,
I think there's Yorshim of their derech today.
I mean,
And the only thing is that we're going to see why the Birkas Shmueil still fights it, even though there's really something there, and his politicking for his argument for Akbarak Torah is Sheker Sonesi.
Hate Sheker and love truth.
It's more than that. It's impossible to love Torah without hating Sheker, and therefore I can't look at the teachings of all these different chokhmas of the world and being more cultured. I can't look at it as anything else but sheker. Otherwise, I'll really end up that there's two views. There's Kemach and Torah, and there's Torah Malacha, and all these different things. But he doesn't look at it that he's fighting for this view among the Achronim against this view of the Achronim. He's looking at it. He's showing us. His goal is to show us Ach Barach Torah. This is what Torah is. I'll show you with rayas from the Shulchan Aruch, from the Ramah, from the Rambam, from the Rishonim, from the Gemara. He's going to show us. He's going to do a lot of work. There's a big article here. The reason is because to say that the Din Torah, not al pi Musar, not hashkafa, not to be part of the yeshiva world, to show you that the Din Torah is to look at Torah this way, that nothing else, you can't sell yourself short. It's not following the simple halacha to sell yourself short. That's his goal. It's a very ambitious project. To convince us of this is an ambitious project. I think the more we look at it, why can't I say the other way? The stronger we'll hear his arguments because he's taking a very strong position.
And it seemed like I don't know, the tone that it seems now is that this rabbi really wanted the answer he got. He was seeking to get rid of that Hirsch view.
I think so, and the reason why he needed the Birkas Shmuel's help is because to fight one view against the other view, there's not a chance. Not a chance. I don't know if you ever read the writings of Rav Shimshon, where he's a great writer. He's a great man. Have you read them? I mean, he's a great man.
Yeah.
And his understandings are very deep.
And the etymologies that he does with
Yeah.
the changes of letters.
Not only with the language and the depth of but his philosophical basis, very strong.
Yeah.
So this is where he starts. Now in Sefer Yashar, as I didn't print that in the Marmar Komos, really I should have, but he says like this in Shar Shlishi, Sefer Yashar, Rabbeinu Tam, Rosh HaPerak, at the beginning of Perak Shlishi, Zel Hashono. Efshar tiyeh rov ha'chochma mashchis u'machaser emuna. Kagon chochmas epikorsin v'aminim v'filosofim asher einam ma'aminim b'Torah ha'kedosha v'zeu mipnei roya chochmasam. There's some chochma that's actually damaging, destroys emunah. It's destructive. It's not productive. Now, why? Why isn't it just neutral? Why isn't all these different chokhmas that are out there in the world? So a person is not gonna poison them. Not like eating poison food. It's chokhmah, and why can't I be with broader thinking, aware of all kinds of chokhmah that are out there in the world? Adarabba. If I shut myself off, I'm missing chokhmah. I don't know what's going on in the world. So he says no. The chokhmah mitzad atzmo can be destructive. V'kashi iskabetz b'chokhmah roa leiv v'haroam leiv ro midos gruos tabed emuna ad tachlisam ki lo techsar avo mipnei haleiv hara bilvad. The Rabbeinu Tam writes that the bad midos and the type of chokhmah we're talking about, coming from a bad heart, can destroy emunah. But that's not just the bad midos of it. It's not the only thing there is. That's not the only cause of why it's destructive. Elo mipnei limud chokhmos ros sheyischadchu belev inyanim roim asher yashchisu motzei avo v'yashuv makor mashchis mayin nirpash v'ayin sham sharich sham od. The chiddush he's learning in Rabbeinu Tam is that the chisaron is not that the chokhmas are just bad midos or coming from bad midos or the outlook and the personal life of these philosophers was bad news. Mm-hmm. There's another nakuda, David HaMelech. Because a person gets involved in this stuff, they're missing sheker sonesi. If they had sheker sonesi, he wouldn't touch it. And from sheker sonesi, you can get avas haTorah. But getting involved in this stuff, because forget about midos tovos or midos ros, because of the chisaron of not having sheker sonesi, so a person will end up without Torah. And who wrote that? Rabbeinu Tam. When is Rabbeinu Tam? A long time before the Haskalah. It's Rabbeinu Tam.
Yeah.
So he's saying to us that not every chokhmah is created equal. You have such a thing called chokhmah b'goyim tamim. Very nice. But what kind of chokhmah is that? So if it's in the category of sheker sonesi, then it's not chokhmah b'goyim tamim. Not because it's missing in chokhmah, because it has a different, and not because of midos ros. It's missing the quality of it's because it's sheker. You got to stay away.
Is it because the person who's bringing out that chokhmah has still a love for sheker? Or a like for sheker?
No, that's the opposite. He says it's not because of their midos ros. Maybe some of those philosophers had bad midos.
But
I mean,
how would they?
Even the Rambam, who was a very big follower of Aristo, said he was a letz.
Yeah.
He was a nasty person. Brought down in the books.
Yeah.
So the midos ros is not the problem. The problem is not having hatred for sheker.
So that's my question is there a distinction between that midot of hatred for sheker and bad midot? A person could have bad midot and still have a hate for sheker.
That's true, because if we learn Torah, I don't believe that everybody who dedicates themselves to learn Torah starts out the process with good midos. The Torah will straighten you out, but it's not a prerequisite.
So that
no way. But sheker sonesi is a prerequisite. Without sheker sonesi, it's a lost cause.
So from the beginning, that chokhmah was tainted.
What?
So from the beginning, that chokhmah was tainted.
Because of sheker.
Of hate for not hating sheker.
That's right.
Because
that's right.
They can't.
And
decipher,
that limits
they can't
us.
Filter the truth.
No, not they can't. We can't. Not they can't. It's us, not them. They're wonderful thinkers and philosophers and rational people, and not talking
so
bad about
so
them.
it's from
And the
our
fact that they have bad
acceptance
midos, okay, so they didn't work on their midos. You know, there's a story that in there's a lot of parallel between the Sefer of Cheshbon HaNefesh that Rabbi Yisrael Salanter and Zatzal sought to have published, and some of the writings of a goy. His name was Benjamin Franklin. You might have heard of him. So Benjamin Franklin wrote in his autobiography that one time he decided that and he was no big chassid of Christian religion. He wasn't a religious Christian, but he was a philosopher. And he decided, I'm going to become a tzaddik. Bazel Lashon. He said, I'm going to become a tzaddik, a righteous person. And so he thought about how to do it, and he wrote down 13 midos, which you'll find them listed in the Sefer Cheshbon HaNefesh, that each week I'll work on one of these midos and keep track of anything I did that's not consistent with these midos. And if I check myself with Cheshbon HaNefesh, I'll become a tzaddik, right? So this is a classic case of Chochmah B'Goyim Tamim, because
they coincided.
They coincide.
Mm-hmm.
The publishers of the book Cheshbon HaNefesh didn't broadcast the coincidence or the fact that it was actually based on, because it would take away from the effectiveness of the Sefer Cheshbon HaNefesh. But it's definitely no question about it. It's a case of Chochmah B'Goyim Tamim. It's based on.
They grabbed Benjamin Franklin's.
They took his statement
and made it into
a useful Torah book. Chochmah, but it's an example of Chochmah B'Goyim Tamim. You know, was he a person who had good midos?
No,
not exactly. He was a thinker, but what happened at the end with him? Did he become a tzaddik? Did he succeed? Did he do Cheshbon HaNefesh to become a tzaddik? I'll tell you what, I'm not talking Lashon Hara. He wrote it himself in his book. It's Meforsim, it's in print. So he said, I tried it for 2 or 3 years, and I decided it's not kedai to be a tzaddik. So I went back to be an ordinary person and gave it up. That's what he wrote about himself. So the limitation of Rabbeinu Tam doesn't tell us there's no such thing as Chochmah B'Goyim Tamim. But it does tell us that and he doesn't tell us that the criterion of whether you can build anything on a Chochmah of the Goyim is whether or not they have good midos. Because here's a case of building something on a Goy, on the Chochmah of a Goy, and he definitely did have good midos. But the Chochmah was in the category of Chochmah B'Goyim Tamim, and not in the category of Sheker. And I'm not talking about if the author, the Goy, the author of this wonderful system of thinking, subscribed to Sheker Sonesi or not. I couldn't care less. I'm interested for myself. Before I can touch that Chochmah, I have to know. I have to make this cheshbon about my own thinking. Am I getting pulled into a sheker that's going to destroy my Torah? Or is this in the category of Chochmah B'Goyim Tamim? And it's not so impossible to figure out. But the reality is that both things are true about Chochmah of the world.
No, because I'll say from personal experience with the Rosh Yeshiva, they had a lot of these life coaching books, and like Tony Robbins, but he stopped short. He just used it for it seemed like the jargon, because then he would say this whole pain pleasure. He used to always talk about pain pleasure.
I had this discussion with the Rebbe Zatzal many times over many years, and the starting point was something that's written in the the Sefer HaGaon of the Ramchal. And he said there, and this I believe was the Rebbe's approach with these books that he learned. The Rebbe did not subscribe to using hardly anything in the category of Chochmah B'Goyim Tamid have anything to do with Torah. He always would say, Chochmah B'Goyim Tamid, the Torah B'Goyim Al Tamid. In other words, the part of the limitation of a Chochmah, which is maybe not Mekalkel, and you're not obligated in your relationship to that Chochmah to say Sheker Sonesi, but don't be confused that it's Torah. It's not Torah. It's Chochmah B'Goyim Tamid. Torah B'Goyim Al Tamid. That's the Chazal. So what the Ramchal writes in Sefer HaGaon in the Hakdama is he says that a lot of what you see in my book of HaGaon is taken superficially from the HaGaon of the Goyim. But in fact, the Ramchal cautions us. I didn't take the chokhmah of their logic and use it for Torah. Chalila. That's not what I did. I took their language, their vocabulary, their terminology, where their terminology would be useful to talk the modern language and to make my work of Torah logic more effective. So I used the words that they use. And that the Rebbe said beferish time and time again that he felt in order to teach us Musar and Ashkafa and thinking about how to do tshuva, so you have to use the modern language. That's what people understand. There's a reason why that stuff is around the world, because it affects. So he used their language, but I would say he stopped quite a bit short of using their chachma, because he didn't. He changed what they were talking about to something else. And the Ramchal also, I've proven many times when I teach the Ramchal's logic that although his terminology is one of the sources of how to formulate Aristotelian logic in the Hebrew language. And also you have the Sefer Milos HaGaon of the Rambam, which is similar to that. Why does the Rambam call his work on logic Milos HaGaon? Words, terminology. The Rambam's work on that is called logical terminology. Because, but the thing is, his is in Arabic, and the Hebrew words are really coming from the Hebrew translation. But the Ramchal was involved in terminology of logic. But what was his logic based on? He said it's based on the Torah. I can't base my logic on anything else. If I base my logic on their chokhmot of the world, you think it'll have any relevance to learning? It's chokhmah b'goyim tamid. The Torah b'goyim al tamid. So that is basically exactly what he's bringing a raya from Sefer Yashar, that the place where the chokhmah of the world is destructive, it's exactly from that point that a person has to hate sheker. So now let me go start the next paragraph. Yeah.
Just thinking about math and natural sciences.
Yeah.
I mean, philosophy, I understand that can be very distracting from Torah.
That's true.
But math and natural sciences, I feel maybe it's my perspective as about Teshuvah that says, tell me, they structure your mind and they see the amazement of Hashem's creation. It's studying how Hashem created the world, so you can be amazed by it, and in the form of Chassidut can be added to your devotion. So, yeah. Are we strictly speaking about philosophy, or you also have to add maths and natural sciences?
There's places where the border gets fuzzy between natural sciences and and philosophy,
okay,
and then
math. Let's talk about math.
I think the strongest case is really for logic, and it's very hard to talk about logic in a way that it's not just a structure of thinking that's basically universal. And but even in logic, there are writers who said that the Torah has a different system of logic, and even logic is a problem. And it goes back a long way. It's a machlikas of Rishonim and Achronim. And if the machlikas is true about logic, then kal v'chomer about mathematics and natural sciences. But
math is it might not be the logic of the Torah, but it's definitely the logic of creation.
I would say, in most respects, you're right. But the question is, there's a little area at the end where it gets fuzzy. Then you have to be careful. And if I would say that about logic, then kal v'chomer about everything else. But in terms of logic, there's machlikas of the Chazal, both Rishonim and Achronim, whether or not logic is in fact a universal chokhmah, and there's no difference between Torah and not Torah in logic. But that's a question. The Ramchal goes on the side against, but there's other great rabbinical writers and sources in Halacha who connected it. The first is the Rambam. The Rambam based himself on Aristotelian thinking totally in terms of logic. But so I think the where to draw the line between Sheker Sonesi and between Chochmah B'Goyim Tamin and Torah B'Goyim Al Tamin. But there's a line between those two. And where to draw the line is not a simple question. So I would leave it open. I don't think I have a raya yet from the Birkas Shmueil exactly where the dividing point is. But the opening move of the Birkas Shmueil is to prove to you from Sefer Yashar that you can't have a debate about what is the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, because there's not two sides. There's the Derech HaKodesh of what learning Torah is. We still have to define what that mitzvah is. We haven't defined the mitzvah yet. And there's the understanding of Goyen HaTzadik Rav Shimshon for Hirsch, which he describes as a Horat Shah. And they themselves knew that after they succeeded to put out the fires of the war a little bit, that their goal was to come back to Torah in the way Torah always was. I'll start Osbeis. Look in Osbeis in the Birkas Shmueil. He says, Ato navo le'etzem hadin, the mitzvahs Talmud Torah. What is the actual Torah law of learning Torah? Bezos Abshin Yisborach. V'gam levayer, es a patur, v'osafte gonecha. Very important. You know, besides the mitzvah of learning Torah, there's a patur that you have to eat. You have to eat. You can't learn Torah day and night and never eat. So there's a mitzvah and there's a patur. I have to discuss them. This is found in the Gemara Brachas Lamed Hey. V'hinei, ha'she'elohi nischalekes lebeis chalakim. I'm going to discuss the problem of what is Talmud Torah and what is the patur of Talmud Torah on two parts of the question. One part is called Aleph, Mitzvahs Talmud Torah de Bonim, B'nei Bonim, teaching your children. And the second part is the mitzvah of learning Torah for yourself. Two separate parts. We have to discuss each one. And he's going to start with Talmud Torah de Bonim. But I'll just tell you that it's not like Talmud Torah of teaching your children, it doesn't have to do with what Talmud Torah is for you yourself. Because at some point, a person gets independent from their parents a little more, and really they have to continue their own work of teaching themselves what does it mean to learn Torah. And second of all, what is the difference of a Rebbe who's teaching Torah to his children, teaching Torah to his Talmidim? The answer is only a din kadima. There's no difference whatsoever. That is to say, all the same obligation that he's going to now describe about children applies to Rebbe and Talmud. The only difference is that if there's a priority of din kadima, children come before Talmidim. But otherwise, all the same requirements of teaching Torah to your Talmidim are the same as teaching Torah to your children. All the same requirements. And I'm adding to that, and teaching Torah to yourself, figuring out what is my self-instruction of what do I have to do, right? So now I'll start. He says like this: Hine, B'davar Talmud Torah Debonim, which is based on the pasuk of Shinam de Levonecho. This is described in the Gemara Kiddushin. And that's why this chapter of the Birkas Shmueil is in Maseches Kiddushin, because really the source for teaching your children is in Gemara Kiddushin Daf Lamed. Shachiyuvu al kol ish v'Yisrael liros shebeno ben beno yiyu talmidei chachomim gaonim b'Torah shene'emar shinam d'levonecho shiu divrei Torah mechudadim b'ficha. Si mishalcho adam dovar, al tigamgei, elo, emor lo miyad. This is a quote from the Gemara. This is the Gemara in Kiddushin Daf Lamed. So now, shinantam means that, and the Rebbe said this over and over and emphasized it, you think that learning Torah means just learn as much as you can, means send your kid to cheder, means sit yourself and learn in the yeshiva at least for a year or two. Shinantam means nothing less than you have to become gedolei Torah, gaonim b'Torah, and you have to be able to answer with das Torah. You have to train yourself to know what the Torah says. And you can't fool around. Well, is it possible? What do you think like this? Question? No, you have to say shinantam. You have to say this is what the Torah says. You have to know what the Torah says. That's a very big demand. So he's going to explain how can we handle such a demand like that. So I think the first step is that when a person, whatever you do, you have to have your goal, and when you set your goals, it's I think the lesson from this Gemara is set your sights high. Set your sights high. Set your goals very high. Don't be afraid if I'm so demanding on myself, and my goals are way up there to become a Gedolei and Gaonei Torah, so then how am I ever going to succeed? That's more than I think I could actually do. Who says I can ever get there? So the Rebbe Zatzal used to say more. He said, if I had my way about it, how to lichatchila open a yeshiva and teach Torah, I think I would call my yeshiva the yeshiva for Nevi'im, based on the end of Mesilas Yesharim, who explains that in spiritual growth you can go from level to level to level. You have Talmud Torah to become a Zohar, and a Zoris, and a Noki, and a Porish, and a Chosid, and an Onav, and a Yiras Chet. And the end of Mesilas Yesharim, what's the end of Mesilas Yesharim? Ruach HaKodesh. So the Rebbe said, I'll open up a yeshiva to teach people how to have Ruach HaKodesh.
That's what he said to Abraham.
What?
And he said that's what Abraham Avinu taught.
Well,
in his tents, to get to the level of Ruach HaKodesh, to get to Nevi'im, to see angels.
Yeah.
That's what he learned.
So in other words, the definitely the answer to the kasha of how do I set my goals, the higher the better. The higher the better. We know, in spite of the Rebbe telling us that's how you should open up a yeshiva today, is open up a yeshiva to teach people Ruach HaKodesh. But we know that there hasn't been Nevi'im in Am Yisrael for hundreds of years. Thousands of years. A long time since we had Nevi'im. So his answer to that is, that's Ben HaShamayim. But the preparation, and Mesilas Yesharim says this, the Pharaoh, the Rebbe quoted it many times, that the Mesilas Yesharim says that although a person can metaken themselves and strive and reach the level of Ruach HaKodesh, but in the end, to have Ruach HaKodesh is a gift from the Shamayim. It's not something a person can follow the instruction manual and got it. I now have it in my pocket. Okay, Hashem, give me the graduation certificate that I have Ruach HaKodesh. It doesn't work that way, because in the end, Ruach HaKodesh is a gift. But that doesn't stop us from setting our goals. So for the Birkas Shmueil to say, you shouldn't be put off when he says the goals are very demanding. I'm not saying they're not demanding. You have to demand from yourself and your children to be Gedolei Torah and Gaonei Torah, v'shinan d'levanecho, and be able to answer clearly and quickly with a total knowledge of Torah. That's nothing less. Don't set your goals short. And don't fool yourself that by being quote more realistic, that how far can I expect to go, that you'll be more successful. Be less successful. It's better to have the goal and understand where are you holding in your search and your quest than to make the mistake of setting your goals lower. So this is Beferish. That's how we learn Pshat in this Gemara. The Gemara in Kiddushin says, what's Pshat Shinantam? Also for yourself. You say every day, twice a day, you say Shinantam Vanecha. You're also applying it to yourself, like I said before. What do you have in mind to do? The answer is to be a Gorel B'Torah and a Goyin B'Torah and to know the Torah. Nothing less.
What do they say? Shoot for the moon, because if you fail, you'll be among the stars.
I'll tell you what he's going to say in a minute, what happens if you fail, but we'll get there. Now let me go further. It is Hare Shnischayv Kol Echad Lilamed Libno Kol HaTorah Kamo Shemelamdim BaYeshivot Ibnei Chaveru Mimos Moshe Arato V'kein Mechuy Kol Is Yisrael Lilamed Es Beno Torah Shebichsav B'schar Torah Shebal Peh B'chinam Ogam B'schar. If the yeshiva demands tuition, you got to pay the tuition also for Torah Shebal Peh. Yimech Shalom, if he has the money. K'moshe Nifsak Hadin B'Tur Shulchan Aruch Siman Reish Mem Hey Sivov. I should have printed all these places for you, the Rabbeinu Tam and the Tur, but the you looked them up. But the idea is that a person has to teach his son the way of the yeshivas. And that's what's been done since Moshe Rabbeinu until today. Nothing changed.
Is there a certain age that this is going by, or even if a person's son is 34 years old, that he still has a chiyuv to do that, or? or is it just like when he's a katan or?
I'm going to answer you the simplest way there is to answer, which is that if you spend enough time with your parents, that your father is obligated to sit and learn with you and teach you, then it doesn't matter what age you are. You're still a ben bias, so you live by him, and he teaches you Torah, and adarabba, even sending your kid to school doesn't part the father from teaching him Torah. You're only making a shliach, and the shliach can do the job a little bit, but how many hours anyway does they sit in school? But if you're not living at home, so it must be that you're going to learn Torah from someone else. So you have rabbis that have a mitzvah to teach their children and teach also the children of their friends. Ben Chavero. Ben Chavero is the same as teaching your own son. No difference. Just a din kadima of who gets priority. If there's a conflict of interest, then there's a priority. But otherwise, the same job. So that's the answer to your question. Simple. Where do you live? Right? Not what age are you, but where do you live?
When it says ben benai, so the grandfather is also chai for this.
100%. But that's provided he can get his hands on it.
Mm-hmm. So who's the chiyuv on the? Is it on the father or the grandfather, or it's both?
Both.
Oh.
And on the Rebbe. All of them.
Uh-huh.
But who has the din kadima? Father to son.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the din kini after that? Grandfather. Who has the din after that? The Rebbe. Right? But the obligation of shinantam is the same in all those different mikrim. Doesn't change anything. I'm going to say more so when I get to the chapter, part of the chapter he talks about Talmud Torah. He said the two parts are teaching Torah to your children and teaching Torah to yourself. And yourself, the mitzvah to learn Torah. So now, do you think that shinantam applies only to teaching Torah to your son or your grandson or the son of your friends? But yourself learning Torah? Well, it's nice if I learn a little bit of, Chumash and Rashi and some Mishnayos, and, I don't really set my goals on myself to be a goyin b'Torah. Not true. Not true. All what he's telling us about what is the obligation of shinantam, he's not going to make a difference in the end when we get to the split between Talmud Torah of children and Talmud Torah of yourself. That's not going to be the split. We'll see later on what the split is. Basically, the whole difference is that your father has to pay tuition. You don't have to necessarily pay tuition. You don't have a financial obligation on yourself. But your father has a financial obligation on his children. We'll see. We'll get there in a minute.
To teach him Torah.
Yeah, to teach him Torah, and if it costs money, you got to pay the money.
Or teach it himself.
Or teach it himself. I think there's actually an obligation to pay money, and not teach him yourself in order to get out of paying the money. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see in a little. That's coming later. Let me read what he has to say here. He says, he quotes the Tur Shulchan Aruch. The mitzvah. Lagmurei Mishnah, Gemara, Halachos, Haggados. Everything as far as it's possible. And also the Rambam, Perek Aleph, Milchas Talmud Torah, says the following. V'lo beno, ben beno bilvad. El mitzvah al kol chacham v'chacham lilamed es kol ha-talmidim. Aho b'shem bano. It's every person who's a chacham and knowledgeable in Torah has an obligation to teach Torah. V'im kain, lamin istavu al beno ben benos. And what is the commandment of the father on the son and the grandson. If every chacham has an obligation to teach Torah, so where's the obligation on the parents? Only a din kadima. Lakdim beno ben beno leben chavero. But aside from the din kadima, there's no difference in the obligation of you to teach Torah to your children, or every rabbi to teach Torah to his talmidim. There's no difference. Hare dachiu lelamed beno ben chavero dami la mitzvah shal kol chacham lilmod letalmidim. But if mina, and that's also din kadima, in addition to what every rav has to teach his talmidim, the father has a further din kadima to care about his son and teach his son. But what is the key definition of shinantem based on the Gemara? The key definition is this buzzword. The Rebbe used it all the time: to become a goyin b'Torah, to be talmidei chachomim and gaonim b'Torah. Let me do a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, hine. Start with the paragraph vihine in base, the end of the first column. Vihine yainu na b'divrei mori v'Rabbi HaGaon Amiti HaChassid Rashi Bahag Moreno Rabbeinu Chaim Zecher Tzaddik V'Kodesh L'Rochleim Olabo B'Maimar Darchei Shel Torah. Rabbeinu Chaim wrote a little pamphlet called Darchei Shel Torah. His purpose in writing this pamphlet was against those Rishoyim Maskilim who taught methods. So how come we talk about in our yeshiva, we talk about methods?
You have Derech
Tfunos and Sefer Gaon. They talk about methods all the time. And I didn't make it up. The Rebbe talked about methods all the time. You ever hear the Rebbe talk about methods?
All the time.
So how come
Methods of learning.
So how come we're talking about methods of learning when Rabbeinu Chaim wrote a very fiery pamphlet against those people who have methods? Simple answer. They were Rishoyim. And they hijacked the word methods to use it how to get like broad-minded thinking and quote unquote rational thinking, and use it to take people out of Torah. So the Rebbe's Chiddush to talk about methods, and it was really Rav Davis also. He learned the Ramchal from Rav Davis. The Chiddush was that I don't have to avoid that nasty word because of Rabbeinu Chaim's pamphlet, because he was talking about maskilim, and we shouldn't make the mistake that B'nai Torah are not allowed to think rationally. And really, Rav Davis and also the Rebbe's Hatzal, in their approach to the Ramchal, the opening move was that a person has to learn how to think rationally. It doesn't mean because you think rationally that therefore you can turn around and tell your Rebbe to jump in a lake and forget about what he's teaching because it doesn't make sense to me, so I'm leaving. It doesn't do that. But to value rational thinking, because that's going to open your mind to true Torah, and without that, the person never gets involved himself in what learning Torah is really all about. That's why I'm not afraid of this word, methods, and that's a tremendous koach that we got from the Rebbe. That don't be afraid of thinking. As if you let a person think, maybe they'll think about leaving Torah. It's the other way around. If you don't let a person think, it's very hard to get them to learn Torah. So this is what he says. I'm going to leave with the methods of the Rabbeinu Chaim, and not quote you yet what he wrote in his pamphlet.